happening right now, and where do you feel we need to focus on more so we can keep growing as a civilization aligned with love and not with despair and chaos and sorrow?
So I am going to answer that because they are talking to that, but they are also telling me to go back to something real quick. With
Yes,
these
please.
sensitive and intuitive children, the current mainstream approach to parenting, to teaching them, to guiding them is not going to work. And I think that part of why they're wanting me to say this is because that's where the thank you. They're saying it's in extinction, right? It might take a decade or so, but our parenting and the way we run our systems are going to be changing with how we take care of these children and show up and educating and leading them. So it's going into extinction, is what they're audibly saying. So part of what your role is and part of what your child is trying to encourage you to lean into is to show up differently, to parent differently, to teach differently, to lead differently, to talk differently. One of the things that my daughter taught me is that telepathy is a requirement. And I
Really?
worked on perfecting that, like truly perfecting my ability to connect with her and talk to her and let her voice be heard by my own accessibility of that, right? My own intuitive gifts, my own intuitive recognition of what it is that was outside the intellect needed to be my focus when it came to parenting my three kids and also helping other parents parent and support their children as well. So going back to that really quick, thank you. They're saying the intuitive parenting style is what's required for these children. So if you have a child that's autistic or disabilities or sensitive or intuitive and or all the above, it's that, you are being invited by something greater to move into the gift of mastery that is within you, that owns abilities, including telepathy, including intuition, including moving energy and manifesting, that will help you to really show up and truly help this child so that there is peace, so that there is harmony, so that there is flow in how you interact with your child and how your child shows up for the world and other people and the relationship with you as well. So they're wanting me to speak to that as well, or add to that. And regarding the waves, one of the things that I like to, I have the Awakened Superhuman, which was the other name they gave me. Remember, they said that time will come. Well, that to me,
Right.
Awakened
Right.
Superhumans. So one thing that we talk about in the Awakened Superhumans with the waves and all these different things is like they like to remind us. Like whenever there's a low, or I'm feeling low, or a client's feeling low, or people are like, oh my gosh, it's getting worse. Like it's like these beings show up and they said, remember who you are. Remember who we are. Remember that you came here at this time with a plan. You came here equipped. You came here radiant. You came here prepared for everything and anything that is happening. We are not victims. We're not in any way needing to fear of what's about to unfold or what's going to get bad. No, we have been, thank you, I love that. They're saying we've been designed and created to show up at this time. And part of what we're being asked is to see the beauty, see the light, see the gift of the moment, because that is what's going to bring it into creation. I know you know this, and I'm sure many of your listeners know this, but we live in a multidimensional reality. And that's, I don't just say it, I know it, I own it, I've seen it, I've experienced it. And part of what I see all the time is that since little I've seen this. Sometimes I see this energy moving in the air and in the sky, and I'll hear audibly, they'll say to me, you've jumped a timeline. So they say that collectively we've jumped timelines. And it's very essential and critical for us to understand that what we see in our reality right now, that's just the timeline we're in. And the more we feed the fears and negativity, the doubts, the insecurities, like, how can this be happening? What it's like, oh my gosh, light workers have to fight. Like, the more we feed that, the more we move into a timeline that does not embody who we came to become, right? It pulls us into a place and space that has us doing work differently and working out of the material and out of the humanness versus the soul. And what we're being invited with all of this is like, no, there isn't a challenge. Our human mind can acknowledge it, but we have to also own more of the true self that we are at a place where we are co-creatively bringing ourselves into the timelines that will have us experience the truth of who we are. And our focus, our attention, our intention, our invitation is like, how are we feeding that?
I love this so much. So powerful, you know. I'm making a lot of notes, but this resonates so much. And I love the jumping of timelines. It's Emily, you know, I would like just to invite you just to speak about that because that is so powerful. And how long do you feel and the masters feel that it will take humanity to begin to understand the new this divine education we are receiving right now so we can be conscious participants of extinguishing the old education systems as they are happening, they're crumbling right now, and it's needed so that we can establish more deeper telepathic spiritual connection with the whole. How long do they think it will take? And maybe it's not in time, right? Because it can take an instant of a choice, an instant of a second. But what do they recommend? What do you recommend and the masters recommend for all of us to focus right now as individuals and as collectives with our intuitive children, with our special needs children, and with all the children right now in the world because you know it's needed. What is that we need to be doing or undoing right now to help this acceleration, to help this evolutionary process that we're all going through?
So there's several things that they said. So I'm going to try to go ahead and go through all of them. One is they said time is a human construct, which we know that, and I'm going to be authentic in identifying that that's a really hard concept for us humans to truly understand. You know, we talk about it, we hear it from people, we read about it, you know, and it's like it is a beautiful concept of the soul, and also just owning that the duality that we're in, it's really hard to understand and really conceptualize it fully, but it's leaning into the faith of it, and then the understanding of it. And what I mean by that is that, you know, what they've taught me, thank you, time is very much associated with the logic. So if there is a part of you that decides and creates the expectations, the rules that, okay, it takes this long for this to happen, or it can take long, or it's like we define that process ourselves. The soul isn't saying, okay, it's going to take 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's going to take one day. No, it's like the soul owns that the potentials are infinite and when things can happen and unfold. And it just takes one shift, they're saying macro millimeter, like it's a macro millimeter, I hope I'm saying that right, macro millimeter of a shift for things to change in our reality. And we really go around saying, oh, I'm changing, or I'm doing this, I'm healing this, I'm clearing this. So yes, there's a gift in that, but it's also owning that the presence that we are has no expectations about timing. It has no expectations. Like the soul is not saying we must accomplish this by the end of the year. The soul doesn't do that, because it knows and understands that something can occur and unfold within the blink of an eye. Like everything can change right now in our reality within a blink of an eye. To understand it on a human level is hard. It's hard to conceptualize. But again, the reality is, if we were to jump a timeline, the reality that we would wake up to and wake up within the blink itself would be very different than what we owned within moments before that blink. I hope that makes sense.
Wow. I
So
mean, yes, I'm experiencing something here. I'm like, whoa! Like I had a moment right now where you were speaking, Emily, that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in my office. I'm in my office. It's bizarre. I'm sure with all the people that work with you, they have these experiences of like, whoa, everything I thought was dissolved for a moment, and I was in this dimension of it just makes sense. You know, perfect consciousness, perfect. I just experienced this, and I'm like, you know, I'm here in the podcast gig and the podcast studio here in my side. So, wow, what a transmission. Wow. You know, okay, I don't even know where to go
oh,
with this because you've given us so much out of an activation and is you know what I feel that the message of these children and the how you are helping you help children and adults, correct?
yes, I do.
And you how are you before I go even into that, how do you offer sessions for people that to have children with diagnoses, or how does that work? How do people work with you?
So yes, I do. I do sessions, one-on-one sessions, 30 minutes to an hour to 3 hours. And then I also do coaching and immersions and things like that, really depending on what would serve the person. But I'm audibly hearing. So I'm gonna say that, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna go rewind to something that they're telling me I need to complete.
Yeah, please let them lead. I'm here just to serve. Please.
Thank you. So, for those listening, I know my rates are a certain amount on my site, but if you want to any help or support with your child, please go ahead and contact me, or contact my team. Let's say that more accurately. You can visit my website and email me, or even in social media, and we'll work on something, because they're just saying that there's some people going to be reaching out and they want to make sure that they get supported. And we could explore those price points, just honoring that they're oddly telling me to say that. But real quick, going back, you asked a question about, like, how do we move into the waves, right? How do we move more productively? And I can't remember exactly your languaging, but I'll honor that they're telling me to go back to that and identifying
Yes,
that.
please.
Like, how do I do that, right? It's like, how do I do that? Well, the simplest and most significant way is where's your focus? Where's your focus? And we are in a very dualistic reality, and that's the beauty. Remember how I said my first memory was this being teaching me about how we are frail, the frailty of humanity, but we're also these powerful beings. So it's like, where is your focus? Are you in your attention, your emotional state, your mental intention? Are you focusing on the fact that you are this beingness, this greatness, or are you focusing on the human? And it's okay to acknowledge the human. It's okay to acknowledge the emotions and the thoughts, but it's what you do from there, right? Acknowledgement comes first, and then the decision follows. And, like, where do I guide my focus from here? Right. And if for some reason you're trying to guide and re-guide the focus, but you're finding yourself hitting a wall and struggling and having a hard time, is like, where do I implement steps that will help me refocus my attention the way it really needs to go? So a simple example, if I'm having a hard day, or things are just like, I'm in my human, which is beautiful, because that's the gift. It's not about us fighting the human. It's embracing that that's part of the gift. And the irony is that the more we love that part of ourselves, the more the greater us can take over. Inevitably, it always occurs. It always happens. And it's a must. Thank you. They're always saying it's a must. When we love the human part of us, we actually awaken more of the greater us. But with that being said, like, for example, when that happens to me, for me, something that's very quick and simple that helps me to refocus my attention is I can draw. I'll doodle, right? I'll write my thoughts, or I'll go ahead and play music and go, like, un merengue, una salsa, something nice that will have me moving
I
my.
love that. I love this so much, Emily. I'm getting so excited. Yes, salsa, por favor.
Yes, yes. Or like, I go outside and I just take a moment to appreciate the beautiful clouds and the sky and the birds and the trees and the mess in my house. Like, okay, what do I love about this house? It's just taking time to move into what can just be given attention if
Yes.
whatever your mind is trying to move you into is not supporting the highest good.
Oh my gosh, what happened? Like, and drops the mic. Drops the mic with salsa, with wow, what a transmission, what a sharing. I feel super fortunate because you the masters were here. I was kind of shy. I was like, should I ask them more questions? But what you just gave us, it's such a transmission of hope, of blessings, of light. Obviously, the high frequency of your sharing, it just can't be felt. I feel it. I know everybody's going to hear it. So just because of time, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful that you are here. And I'm so grateful that you are working with these incredible beings. I myself, I'm going to reach out to your team, eventually for my son too. And you just gave me a whole gift in the podcast. So, but we have a ritual in the podcast. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You answer yes, no. It's just a quick answer, just fun questions, and then we'll ask you for a blessing. But I'll guide you into these questions, and they we always change them based on what the listeners send us of things they want to hear from our guests. So, if you are ready,
I'm ready.
it should be fun. Okay. So, number one, do you prefer? This is so funny. Um, angel cake. Of course, question is for this podcast. Angel cake or no cake at all? This is what is this? I'm sorry.
No cake at all.
Okay, no cake at all. Number two, if you could speak to any ascended master, who only one ascended master, who will that be?
The Christ is always one.